Welcome to this explainer on Sankhya Yoga and the wisdom of transcending grief. Today, we're diving into a genuinely profound piece of ancient wisdom from the Bhagavad Gita, so go ahead and take a deep breath, just let go of whatever you were doing a few minutes ago, because we aren't just looking at dry history or typical self-help tips today. We're actually looking at a mirror reflecting the human soul. We're going to talk about grief, fear, and that incredible lasting peace that comes when we finally grasp the true nature of our own existence.
So let's just dive right in. Why do we grieve for things that are completely outside our control? It's something every single one of us grapples with, right? We spend so much of our waking lives just agonizing over what we might lose. We mourn relationships before they even end. We stress out over our bodies aging, and we feel this massive sorrow for the inevitable changes life throws at us. It is absolutely exhausting. But today, we're going to see how our modern anxieties are actually rooted in this ancient illusion that was perfectly diagnosed thousands of years ago. Section 1. The illusion of grief. To really understand this illusion, think about Arjuna's overwhelming grief on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He's this great warrior on the edge of a massive, inevitable conflict. But looking across the battle lines, he doesn't see a faceless enemy. He sees his own family, his teachers, his friends. It hits him that everything he loves is subject to time, destruction, and death. And honestly, it completely crushes him. He's paralyzed by helplessness. And while we aren't standing on literal ancient battlefields, Arjuna's crisis perfectly mirrors our own daily struggles with the exact same fears.
Which brings us to Section 2, Words of the Wise.
So how does Krishna respond to this universal paralysis? Well, in Chapter 2, verse 11 of the Gita, he doesn't offer pity. Instead, he delivers a profound philosophical truth that cuts right through the despair. This specific verse is the very foundation of Krishna's teachings, and it carries this deep, resonant weight that has challenged people for millennia to look at the vast, eternal reality of existence.
Let this English translation sink in for a second. He says, "You grieve for those who are not worthy of grief, and yet speak words of wisdom. The truly wise grieve neither for the living nor for the dead." Wow, this completely flips our everyday idea of what it means to be wise. Krishna is basically saying, look, you sound smart, but your overwhelming sorrow proves you're missing the bigger picture. Arjuna is using high-minded philosophy just to justify his own fear of change and death.
And as you can see beautifully represented in the Hindi translation here, this ancient verse is deeply anchored in its rich cultural roots, yet the core message is totally universal. True wisdom isn't just about what you know in your head. It's about how you actually react to the inevitable cycles of existence. Because if your philosophy doesn't bring you peace, it's really just a collection of empty words.
Moving on to Section 3, Deconstructing False Grief. Let's unpack this false grief. This slide brilliantly illustrates the paradox Krishna points out. We are so good at intellectualizing life, aren't we? We understand biology, we know everything eventually passes, and we give great advice to our friends. But the second we face actual change ourselves, like an illness or a major loss, our emotions just take over. We're completely paralyzed by fear, grieving for temporary forms, and totally forgetting the eternal essence behind them.
And that brings us to the definition of the truly wise. True wisdom requires us to transcend the temporary nature of both life and death. The wise understand that the core essence of who we are is eternal. It was never born, and it will never die. So intensely grieving for the physical living or the physically dead is just a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. The essence always remains.
So how does this apply today? Let's look at Section 4, the modern lifespan problem. You might be wondering how this ancient text fits into your busy life. Well, look at this number, 79 years. That's the average global human lifespan, and it perfectly sums up our modern obsession. We are completely fixated on outrunning death. We literally live with this subconscious timer ticking in our heads, treating life like a frantic race to pack everything in before time runs out.
Just look at the modern anxieties this creates. We've built a multi-billion-dollar anti-aging industry because we are so terrified of looking like we're aging. We treat death as a medical failure instead of a natural, sacred inevitability. This relentless fear keeps our society in a constant state of low-level anxiety. It is the exact false grief Krishna warned about. We're mourning the passage of time instead of actually experiencing the present.
Section 5. Transcending our modern grief.
So how do we practically apply this wisdom right now? Well, it takes 3 fundamental shifts. First, we absolutely have to let go of the biological clock. A beautiful life is measured in presence, not duration. Second, find absolute peace in the present moment. If you're constantly dreading the future, you miss the only place where the eternal exists, which is right now. And third, release the fear of the inevitable. By doing this, we shift our focus from the sheer quantity of our days to the eternal depth of our existence.
I'll leave you with this to reflect on. If the fear of the end was completely removed from your heart, if you truly let go of the grief for things outside your control, how would you choose to live this very day? Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Take this wisdom, breathe it in, and let it bring a profound peace to your journey ahead.
Get ancient wisdom and infinite guidance, anywhere, anytime. Visit sanathan.app today. Start your spiritual journey now.